My sister massage, good luck starting over after wiping out my account. By the next morning, she was pleading with me. Can you imagine getting a text from your own sister that reads, "Hope you enjoy starting over"? That was her way of telling me she'd just drained my bank account. But what she thought was my financial ruin actually blew the lid off a secret betrayal so deep it shattered my entire family. And by morning, she was begging me to make it all go away. My name is Thomas, I'm 32, and I live in Charlotte. I'm a software engineer, which means I'm pretty good with logic and numbers. About 3 years ago, I started doing freelance consulting on the side, building custom tools for small businesses. Honestly, it took off like a rocket. Within 18 months, I was making more from that than my day job. Last year, I bought a house, nothing crazy, just a solid 3-bedroom ranch. It was a huge deal for me. I was the first person in my family to ever own property. And that, my friends, is where my sister Megan comes in. Megan is 4 years older than me. Growing up, she was the one who always got the attention. Not because she earned it, but because she demanded it. And our mom, Diane, well, she just never had the energy to say no. Megan got the car at 16. Megan got the bigger bedroom. Megan got the study abroad semester that ate through half of our parents' savings. So, when Megan decided she wanted to open a boutique clothing store a few years ago, guess who our mom pressured to invest?
Yep.
That would be me. I said no. And let me tell you, saying no to my mom is not something I'm good at. She has this way of making everything sound like a moral test. Family supports family, Thomas. You'd really let your sister struggle when you have the means to help? Your father would be disappointed. Our dad passed when I was 19, and she knows exactly how much weight that line carries. But I still said no. Megan's business plan was a napkin sketch and a mood board. She had no retail experience, no idea about inventory, and her target demographic was women who appreciate timeless elegance, which, let's be real, is not a demographic. It's a candle label. I told her I loved her, but I wasn't putting my hard-earned money into something I didn't believe in. That was the first crack in our relationship. Megan didn't yell. That's not her style. She went quiet for 2 weeks, then started making these little comments at family dinners. Must be nice to just hoard your money. Some of us actually take risks. She'd say it with this smile, like she was teasing, but there was a blade behind every single word. My mom would just stare at her plate. The boutique opened anyway. I don't know where Megan got the startup capital. She never told me, and I didn't ask. For about a year, things seemed okay. She'd post pictures on Instagram, ribbon cutting, happy customers, curated displays, the whole aesthetic. I was genuinely glad for her. Then the cracks started showing again. She started asking to borrow money, but not directly from me. She'd go through our mom, who'd call me with that tired voice. "Megan's having a slow month. Could you just help with her rent this one time?" I helped twice, $1,000 the first time, $1,500 the second. Both times I sent it to my mom's account, telling myself it was a loan. I never saw a dollar of it back. About 6 months ago, the request stopped. I figured Megan had either turned things around or found another source of cash. Either way, Sunday dinners got less tense. Megan even started being suspiciously nice to me again, asking about my work, complimenting my house, telling me she was proud of how well I was doing. My girlfriend, Priya, noticed it immediately. "She's buttering you up for something," Priya said one night after dinner at my mom's. We were in the car, and she had that look she gets when she's deciding whether to say the quiet part out loud. "Maybe she's just being a sister," I said. Priya gave me a look that said everything her mouth didn't. I should have listened. 3 weeks ago, I was at my desk, 10 p.m., finishing up a project. My phone buzzed with a text from Megan. I almost didn't read it because I was deep in a code review, but something made me glance down. "Hope you enjoy starting over." That was it. No context, no emoji, just that chilling sentence. I stared at it for a good 10 seconds. Then a notification popped up from my bank app. Account alert. I tapped it open and saw a transfer I didn't authorize. Every single dollar in my old checking account, the one I'd had since college, had been moved to an external account I didn't recognize. The amount was $4,200. Now, here's the thing. That account? It was a joint account. My mom had set it up when I was 18 so she could transfer money for textbooks and groceries while I was at school. I'd basically forgotten it existed. My real money, my consulting income, my savings, my investment accounts, all of that was at a completely different bank, under completely different credentials. That old account was just a small cushion, pocket change, compared to what I actually had. But Megan didn't know that. My hands were steady when I put the phone down. I wasn't panicking. I was thinking. Because Megan couldn't have accessed that account on her own. It was joint with my mother, which meant my mom had either given Megan the login information or done the transfer herself. I picked up the phone and called my mom. She answered on the second ring, which at 10 p.m. on a weeknight meant she was expecting my call. That told me everything I needed to know before she even said a word. "Thomas," she said. Just my name. That careful, measured tone she uses when she's already rehearsed what she's going to say. "Mom, what did you do?" There was a pause. I could hear the TV in the background, some home renovation show she always watches. Then she sighed, that signature Diane sigh. The one that's supposed to make you feel like you're the one being unreasonable. Your sister needed help, Thomas. She's about to lose everything. The store, her car, everything. I did what any mother would do. You gave her access to my bank account? I shot back. Our account. It's a joint account. And it's not like you'd miss it. You have your big consulting money and your house and your fancy life. Megan has nothing. I let that sit for a second. My fancy life. My house that I worked 80-hour weeks to afford. My consulting money that I built from nothing while working a full-time job. Mom, that wasn't your money to give. Don't start with me, Thomas. I'm not in the mood. Your sister texted you, I know. And I told her not to do that, but she's emotional. She's scared. If you had just helped when I asked you, none of this would have happened. There it was, my fault. Somehow, always my fault. I told her I'd call her tomorrow and hung up. Then I sat in my office for a long time, not angry, exactly, but doing something I should have done years ago. I logged into that old bank account and started pulling the full transaction history. Not just the last month, everything going back 3 years. And that's when I saw it. Small transfers, $200 here, $350 there, $500, going back 26 months, all to the same external account. Dozens of them. Someone had been draining that account slowly, methodically, for over 2 years. And I had never once noticed because I never checked it. I grabbed out the calculator and started adding them up. By the time I finished, the number on my screen was $41,800. $41,800. Gone. Before Megan's little power move tonight ever happened. I leaned back in my chair, looked at the ceiling, and said one word out loud that I definitely can't repeat here. Then I started pulling every document I could find, because something told me that $41,000 was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was spiraling, but because once I started digging, I couldn't stop. The transaction history was laid out like a timeline of exactly how little my family thought of me. The transfers started small, $150 here, $200 there, right around the time Megan opened her boutique. They got bigger as the months went on. By the second year, there were months with $1,500 or more going out, always to the same external routing number, always initiated by the joint account holder, my mother. I sat at my desk with my laptop open and a legal pad next to me, writing down dates and amounts like some kind of forensic accountant. Priya found me at 6 glad in the morning, still in the same clothes, surrounded by printouts. Thomas, what happened? I told her everything. The text from Megan, the call with my mom, the 2 years of transfers. She sat on the edge of my desk and listened without interrupting, which is one of the things I love about her. She doesn't react until she has the full picture. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You need to call the bank today before they move anything else." She was right. But first, I needed coffee and a shower because I was about to have some very unpleasant conversations, and I wanted to be sharp for all of them. I called the bank at 9 a.m. when they opened, explained the situation, told them I was a joint account holder, that I had not authorized any of the transfers over the past 26 months, and that I wanted to freeze the account immediately. The representative was professional, asked a few verification questions, and put me on hold for about 10 minutes. When she came back, she told me the account was frozen, and that their fraud department would be reaching out within 48 hours. Then I asked her something that had been nagging me since 3:00 in the morning. Can you tell me who set up the destination account for these transfers? She couldn't give me the account holder name directly, privacy regulations. But she told me enough. The receiving account was at a regional credit union, and the recurring transfers had been set up using online banking with my mother's login credentials. So, my mom hadn't just handed Megan the keys last night. She'd been the one making the transfers the entire time. 2 years of quietly siphoning money out of an account that was half mine, handing it to Megan, and never saying a word. I thanked the representative and hung up. Then, I did something I probably should have done a long time ago. I went to my filing cabinet and pulled out every piece of mail from that old bank account. Statements I tossed in a folder and never opened. I started going through them one by one, matching them against my printed transaction history. That's when I found it. Tucked into a statement from 14 months ago was a piece of mail that had been forwarded to my address. A letter from a credit union I'd never heard of. It was a courtesy notification that my Social Security number had been used on a business loan application. I read it twice, then a third time. The applicant was listed as Megan Kessler, doing business as Atelier South, the name of her boutique. And right there on the notification, my name and Social Security number, listed as a cosigner. I had never cosigned anything for Megan. I had never authorized the use of my Social Security number. I had never even heard of this credit union before that moment. My sister had committed identity fraud, and the letter had been sitting in my filing cabinet for over a year because I'd assumed it was junk mail. I put the letter down very carefully. The way you handle something you know is about to become evidence, and I called Priya. How bad? She asked. Worse than I thought. I told her about the loan application, about my social security number. She went quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You need a lawyer, Thomas. Today." She was right again. I spent the rest of the morning finding an attorney who specialized in financial fraud and identity theft. His name was Glenn Harford, mid-50s, small firm downtown. Came recommended by a colleague at work. I got an appointment for Tulai that afternoon. Around noon, my phone started lighting up. Megan first, a text that said, "You blocked the account." Then another, "Mom told me it's frozen. What did you do?" The audacity was almost impressive. She'd stolen from me and was angry that I'd noticed. I didn't respond. Then my mom called. I let it ring. She called again. Then a voicemail. I played it while making a sandwich. "Thomas, I don't know what you've done with the bank, but you need to fix it. Megan has bills due this week, and she's counting on that money. I know you're upset, but this is not the time to be petty. Call me back." Petty. $41,000 in unauthorized transfers over 2 years, and I was being petty. I ate my sandwich, got dressed, and drove to Glenn Harford's office. Glenn was exactly the kind of lawyer you want in a situation like this. Calm, methodical, zero interest in drama. He listened to everything, reviewed the documents I brought, the transaction history, the loan notification, the screenshots of Megan's texts, and asked questions for about 30 minutes. When he was done, he leaned back in his chair and folded his hands. "So, here's where you stand," he said. "The unauthorized transfers from the joint account are complicated. Joint accounts give both holders legal access to the funds. Your mother had the right to move money out. Whether she had the ethical right is a different question, but legally pursuing that as theft is an uphill fight." I nodded. I'd expected that. The identity fraud, though, he tapped the credit union letter. That's a different animal entirely. Using someone's social security number to co-sign a loan without their knowledge or consent is a federal crime. It doesn't matter that she's your sister. It doesn't matter if the loan is in good standing or in default. The act itself is criminal. "What are my options?" I asked. "You can file a police report. You can dispute the loan with the credit union. You can report the identity theft to the FDIC and the credit bureaus. Any or all of those will create a paper trail that your sister will not enjoy dealing with. And if I do all of them?" Glenn gave me a look that was almost a smile. "Then your sister is going to have a very educational few weeks." I drove home and sat in my driveway for a while. The house was quiet. Priya was at work. I looked at my phone. 6 missed calls from my mom. 2 more texts from Megan, each one angrier than the last. The most recent one said, "You're really going to do this to your own family? Over money? Over money." Like she hadn't been the one who made it about money in the first place. I went inside, sat down at my desk, and started filling out the forms. Police report first. Then the FDIC identity theft affidavit. Then the dispute with the credit union. I filed everything by 5 p.m. Then I called my Uncle Ray. He's my mom's brother, the closest thing I have to a reasonable person in my family. I told him the short version, not for sympathy. I just wanted someone in the family to hear my side before my mom's version of events became gospel. Ray listened. Then he said something that surprised me. I had a feeling something was off with that store. "Your mom's been way too involved in Megan's finances. She asked me for money twice last year, said it was for property taxes, but the timing never made sense." I filed that away and thanked him. That night, I got one more text from Megan. This one was different from the others. No anger, no accusations, just 4 words. "What did you find?" She knew. She didn't know exactly what I'd done, but she knew I'd found something beyond the $4,200. She knew because she knew what was there to find. I turned off my phone and went to bed. For the first time in years, I slept like a rock. The next 2 weeks were the most disciplined 2 weeks of my life. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't argue. I didn't send a single angry text. I went to work, came home, had dinner with Priya, and quietly built the most thorough paper trail a software engineer with mild insomnia has ever assembled. Glenn Harford filed the dispute with the credit union on my behalf. I pulled my credit reports from all 3 bureaus and found the co-signed loan sitting there like a landmine. The loan was for $85,000, and it was 7 months behind on payments. My credit score, which I'd worked years to keep above 780, had already taken a hit that I hadn't noticed because I hadn't checked in a while. Glenn walked me through the process of placing a fraud alert and filing for removal of the loan from my credit history. "This won't be instant," he warned me, "but the paper trail is clean. You didn't sign anything. The credit union's own records will show that the signature on the application doesn't match yours. It's not a hard case. Meanwhile, I went to Sunday dinner at my mom's house, both Sundays. You're probably wondering why. Honestly, I almost didn't go. Priya thought I was out of my mind, but I needed to see how they were going to play this, and I needed to do it without tipping my hand. The first Sunday was fascinating. Megan was there with her husband, Derek. Derek's a decent guy, works in logistics, never says much. He's one of those people who got quieter over the years, like he learned early on that speaking up in that family was a losing proposition. I've always felt a little bad for him. My mom acted like nothing had happened. She made pot roast. She asked about my work. She told a story about a neighbor's dog. The frozen bank account, the texts, the voicemails, none of it came up. It was like the whole thing had been dropped into a box and shoved under the bed. Megan was different. She watched me the entire meal. Not obviously, but I could feel it. Every time I said something normal. Every time I laughed at Derek's one joke about the pot roast being structurally ambitious. Megan's eyes would flick over to me like she was trying to read a language she didn't speak. After dinner, while our mom was doing dishes and Derek was in the bathroom, Megan cornered me in the hallway. "We need to talk about this," she said. Her voice was low, almost conversational, like she was suggesting we go get coffee. "About what?" I asked. "Don't do that." "You know what?" I leaned against the wall and looked at her. My older sister, the one who used to help me with homework in middle school, before everything got competitive, before our dad died, and the family turned into a zero-sum game. "Megan, I honestly don't know what you want me to say. I want you to tell me what you're doing. The account is frozen. Mom can't access it. Are you going to the bank? Are you getting lawyers involved? Why would you think lawyers are involved?" Something shifted behind her eyes just for a second. Fear, maybe, or calculation. "I'm just asking, and I'm just having dinner." She stared at me for another beat, then walked away. I went home and wrote down everything she'd said, word for word, in a document on my laptop. Habit from my consulting work. Always document the conversation. The second Sunday was even more interesting. This time, Megan was performatively generous. She brought dessert, a fancy chocolate cake from that bakery on East Boulevard. She made a point of asking about Priya's work. She offered, "I swear I am not making this up, to help me with my finances. I know things have been tight for you lately," she said, cutting the cake. "If you ever need help budgeting or anything, I've been reading a lot about financial planning." I almost choked on my pot roast. Derek, sitting across from me, looked like he wanted to dissolve into his chair. I caught his eye for half a second, and he looked away fast. My mom jumped right in. "That's so generous, Meg!" "Thomas, isn't that sweet?" "Very sweet," I said. "I'll keep that in mind." I caught Uncle Ray's eye. He'd come to dinner that night, which was unusual. He usually only shows up for holidays. He gave me the smallest nod, barely perceptible, and changed the subject to football. After dinner, Ray pulled me aside on the porch. "I did some asking around," he said quietly. "Your mom borrowed $6,000 from your Aunt Linda last year. Told her it was for a new furnace. Linda drove past your mom's house last month and saw the same unit that's been there for 10 years. $6,000 to Aunt Linda, for a furnace that never got replaced. How deep does this go?" I asked. Ray shook his head. "I don't know, but it's deeper than just you." That night, I updated Glenn with everything. The conversation with Megan, the information from Ray about Aunt Linda, the financial planning offer that was so absurd it could have been performance art. Glenn's response was practical. "The credit union has started their investigation. They've confirmed the signature discrepancy. Your sister's going to hear from them soon, probably within the week. When that happens, expect the family dynamic to shift." He wasn't wrong. 4 days later, on a Wednesday evening, I was on my couch watching a documentary about deep-sea mining, which sounds boring, but is actually wild, when my phone rang. It was Megan. I let it ring 3 times, then picked up. "Thomas?" Her voice was different now. The casual mask was gone. She sounded like someone standing in a room that had just caught fire. "What's up, Meg?" "I got a letter from Heritage Community Credit Union. They're saying there's a fraud investigation on my business loan. They're saying someone disputed the cosigner." "Thomas, was that you?" "Megan, if there's a fraud investigation, you should probably talk to a lawyer." "Don't give me that." "Was it you? If someone used my social security number without my permission to cosign a loan I never agreed to, then yeah, I'd dispute that, wouldn't you?" Silence. The kind of silence that has weight to it. "Thomas, you don't understand what this means. If they pull the loan, I lose everything. The store, the inventory, the lease. I already used the stock as collateral for another line of credit. If Heritage calls the loan, it all collapses. That sounds like something you should have thought about before you forged my signature." She started crying. "I want to be clear about something. I don't enjoy hearing my sister cry. We grew up in the same house. We buried the same father. There's a version of this family where we're close and none of this ever happened. But that version required people making different choices, and none of those choices were mine. Please, she said, please just tell them you agreed to it. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. I'll pay you back, Thomas. I'll pay back everything. Everything meaning what exactly? Another silence. The 40 this time? The 4200s and the other 41,800? She didn't answer. And the loan with my social security number on it? Still nothing. Good night, Megan. I hung up, turned off my phone, and went back to my documentary. The deep-sea mining was somehow less disturbing than my family. By the end of that week, I got a call from a detective at Charlotte-Mecklenburg PD. They reviewed the police report I filed and wanted to schedule a time to discuss the identity theft in more detail. I said I was available any time. And my sister, who 2 weeks ago had texted me to enjoy starting over, had no idea that the person who really needed to start over was her. The detective's name was Rojos. She was thorough, direct, and had the kind of patience that told me she'd seen 100 cases like mine. We met at her office on a Tuesday morning. I brought everything: the transaction history, the credit union notification, the credit reports, Glenn's correspondence, all of it organized in a binder because apparently becoming the victim of family fraud turns you into the kind of person who owns binders. Rojos went through it page by page. She asked questions I expected and a few I didn't. Had Megan ever had legitimate access to my social security number? Yes, probably from shared family documents over the years. Had I ever verbally agreed to co-sign anything? No. Had I ever given my mother permission to make transfers from the joint account? Not since college. And the original purpose of the joint account? Rojos asked. My mom set it up so she could send me money for school. I just never closed it. She nodded, wrote something down. People leave these open all the time. It's one of the most common vectors for family financial fraud. That's comforting, I said. She told me the investigation would take time, but that the identity fraud component was straightforward. The credit union had confirmed the signature mismatch. Megan would be contacted by law enforcement within a few weeks. What happens after that? I asked. Depends on the DA's office. Identity fraud is a Class G felony in North Carolina, up to 47 months. First-time offenders usually get probation and restitution, especially in family cases, but the charge stays on record. A felony. I drove home and sat with that for a while. I'm not going to pretend I felt triumphant. I felt tired. The family implosion started the next day. Megan called our mom. Our mom called me. I know this because Uncle Ray called me about 30 minutes later and gave me the play-by-play like a sportscaster with a moral compass. Your mother is losing her mind, he said. Megan told her about the credit union investigation. Your mom called me screaming. Said you're trying to put your sister in prison. I told her that using someone's social security number without their knowledge is literally a crime. And she hung up on me. How's Megan? From what I can tell, terrified. Her husband called me this morning. That surprised me. Derek called you? He's freaking out, Thomas. Says he had no idea about the loan or the social security number. Says Megan told him the money from your account was a gift from your mother. He's talking about separating. I felt a dull ache somewhere behind my ribs. Derek wasn't a bad guy. He just married into a bad situation, same as Priya almost did, except Priya had the sense to see through the fog early on. That evening, my mom showed up at my house. No call, no warning, just her Honda Accord in my driveway and her standing on my porch with that look she gets when she's preparing to deploy maximum emotional leverage. Priya and I were in the middle of making stir-fry. I saw the headlights through the kitchen window and felt my stomach tighten just a little. I'll handle it, I told Priya. I know you will, she said, but I'm staying in earshot. I opened the front door. My mom was standing there in her church coat, which she wears when she wants to feel righteous, even though it was 65 degrees. Thomas, we need to talk. Come in. She sat at my kitchen table. Priya stayed in the kitchen, visible but not hovering. My mom glanced at her once, then focused on me. You need to stop this. Stop what? This investigation? This vendetta against your sister? It's gone too far. Mom, Megan used my social security number to take out an $85,000 loan. She forged my signature. That's not a family disagreement. That's a crime. She was desperate, Thomas. The store was failing and she didn't know what else to do. She didn't do it to hurt you. The intent doesn't change what happened. So you'd rather see your sister go to prison than show a little grace? Is that really who you are? There it was. The framing I'd been waiting for. Not, your sister did something terrible and we need to fix it. Instead, you're a bad person for holding her accountable. The Diane special. I took a breath. Mom, I want to ask you something and I want you to answer me honestly. She straightened up, suspicious already. The $41,800 in transfers from the joint account over 2 years. Did Megan ask you to do that, or did you decide on your own? Her face did something complicated. It went through about 4 expressions in 2 seconds, landing on the one I expected, offended dignity. I'm your mother, Thomas. Everything I've done has been to keep this family together. That's not an answer. Megan needed help. I helped her. That's what mothers do. With my money. With the family money. There's no such thing as family money, Mom. There's your money and there's my money. That account had my deposits in it. My paychecks from when I was 20 years old, working weekends at the tech support desk to pay my own tuition because you told me there wasn't enough for both me and Megan. Remember that? She didn't answer. Her jaw worked like she was chewing on something she didn't want to swallow. I didn't come here to be interrogated, she said, standing up. I came to ask you as your mother to drop this before you destroy what's left of this family. What's left of this family was destroyed when you decided one child's needs mattered more than the others. That wasn't my decision. It was yours. She left without another word. I heard the car door slam, then the engine, then nothing. Priya came out of the kitchen, set a plate of stir-fry in front of me, and sat down. You okay? Not really. Eat anyway. I ate. Over the next 3 days, the situation accelerated. The credit union formally recalled Megan's loan because the cosigner, me, had been fraudulently added. The loan was in violation of its own terms. Megan had 30 days to either pay the balance in full or negotiate a new agreement without my name on it. She couldn't do either. Her boutique's inventory, which she'd used as collateral for a separate line of credit, was now tied up in the recall. Her other lender got spooked, froze her credit line, and demanded an audit. Within 4 days, Megan couldn't make payroll for her 2 employees. Derek called me directly, almost 11 at night. His voice was ragged. Thomas, I need you to know that I didn't know about any of this. Megan told me your mom was helping her and that you'd agreed to back the loan. I believed her because she's my wife. I believe you, Derek. I'm staying at my brother's place. I can't be in the house until I understand what she actually did. Is there any way to fix this without court? Maybe. But the bank has their own investigation now. The police have a case file. Even if I wanted to make it all disappear, I can't. He was quiet for a long time. She's not a bad person, Thomas. She just got in over her head. I know, I meant it. Megan wasn't evil. She was desperate, entitled, and enabled by a mother who never taught her the difference between wanting something and deserving it. But understanding why someone does a thing doesn't mean you let them keep doing it. The next morning, Megan called me at 7 a.m. I was brushing my teeth. I put the phone on speaker. Thomas? Her voice was small, defeated, nothing like the woman who texted me to enjoy starting over. Morning, Meg. There's a detective who wants to talk to me. A Detective Rojos. I know, Thomas. Please, I'm begging you. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you knew about the loan. I'll do anything. What does anything look like? I don't know. Whatever you want. I'll pay you back. I'll sign whatever you need me to sign. Just please don't let them charge me. I have to go to work, Megan, but I think you and I and Mom need to sit down together. All of us. This weekend. Okay? Yes, okay. And Megan, bring Derek. He deserves to be in the room. She paused. Okay. I hung up, rinsed my toothbrush, and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired, but I also looked like someone who wasn't going to let this drag on any longer. This weekend, one way or another, it was going to end. Saturday afternoon, my mom's living room. The same room where we'd had 20 years of awkward holiday dinners, and somehow this was going to be the most awkward one yet. Everyone was there. My mom in her armchair, clutching a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. Megan on the couch, pale, no makeup, which was how I knew this was serious, because Megan does not leave the house without concealer. Derek sat next to her, a careful 6 inches of space between them. Uncle Ray was in the dining chair by the window there because I'd asked him to be. Priya waited in the car. She'd offered to come in, but I told her this needed to be family only, and she understood. I sat in the chair opposite my mom and set a folder on the coffee table. So, I said, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to talk, then you're going to talk, and then we're going to figure out how to move forward without anyone going to prison. Megan flinched at that last word. Thomas, my mom started. Not yet, Mom. I opened the folder. Inside were printed copies of everything. The transaction history, the credit union letter, the credit report showing the fraudulent loan, Glenn's legal summary, the police report number, 26 months of unauthorized transfers from the joint account totaling $40,800. One business loan for $85,000 co-signed with my social security number without my knowledge or consent. One credit score damaged by a loan that's 7 months behind on payments. That's the summary. I looked at Megan. Do you dispute any of that? She shook her head. Her hands were in her lap, fingers laced so tight her knuckles were white. Mom, do you dispute your role in the transfers? My mom set her mug down. I did what I thought was right for this family. That's not what I asked. Uncle Ray shifted in his chair. Diane, just answer the question. My mom looked at her brother with something close to betrayal. Then she looked back at me. No, she said. I don't dispute it. I made the transfers. Thank you. I turned to Megan. The loan. I need to hear you say it. Her chin trembled. Derek was looking at the floor. I used your social security number, Megan said. Her voice cracked on the last word. On the loan application, I forged your signature. I knew it was wrong, and I did it anyway because I was going to lose the store, and I panicked. Derek let out a slow breath like he'd been holding it for days. Did Mom know about the SSN? Megan hesitated. She glanced at our mother. My mom's face had turned to stone. She knew. That is not fair, Megan, my mom snapped. I told you to ask Thomas. I told you to go to him directly. You told me he'd never agree and that sometimes family has to do what's necessary. The room went very still. Uncle Ray rubbed his face with both hands. Derek leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the carpet like he was trying to read something written in the fibers. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I'd rehearsed this with Glenn. Option 1, the criminal investigation proceeds. Identity fraud, Class G felony, probably probation for a first offense, but a felony record follows you forever. Megan made a small sound. Option 2, I work with my attorney to present a resolution to the DA's office. Glenn thinks they'll accept it if Megan cooperates fully. I pulled out the document Glenn and I had drafted. Full restitution of the $41,800, structured monthly payments, legally enforceable. Full cooperation with Heritage Credit Union to remove my name and SSN from the loan. My credit report gets cleaned up at Megan's expense. And a signed affidavit acknowledging what happened, held by my attorney in case any of this is ever disputed. That's everything? Megan asked. There was a desperate hope in her voice that almost broke my heart. There's one more thing. Mom, you took $41,800 from an account that was half mine. I'm not pursuing that legally because joint accounts make it complicated. But you owe me an acknowledgement. Not an apology, not an excuse. Just an acknowledgement that you knew what you were doing and that it was wrong. My mom sat in her armchair for a long time. The clock on the mantel ticked. I could hear a neighbor's lawnmower somewhere outside. Absurdly normal for what was happening in that room. I knew, she said finally. I knew it was your money, and I took it anyway because I couldn't stand watching your sister fail when I thought you could afford to help. When you thought I could afford it without asking me. Without asking you? Uncle Ray stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the yard. I think he needed a second to process the fact that his sister had just admitted to 2 years of financial manipulation. Derek spoke for the first time. I want to support whatever Megan needs to do to fix this, but I need to know this is the end of it. No more secrets, no more loans I don't know about, no more money that isn't hers. Megan nodded. She was crying now, quietly, without the performative edge I'd come to associate with her tears. I agree to everything, she said. All of it. The repayment, the credit union, the affidavit, whatever it takes. I looked at her and felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever fully. But something like the release of carrying a weight you didn't realize was there until someone finally acknowledged it existed. Glenn will draft a formal agreement this week. You'll need your own attorney to review it before you sign. I can't afford an attorney. Legal aid. Uncle Ray can help you find one. Ray nodded without turning from the window. I stood up, collected the folder, and headed for the door. My mom called after me. Thomas, I stopped. Are we okay? I looked at her. My mother, 61 years old, sitting in the chair my father used to read the paper in, wearing the expression of someone who just realized the story she'd been telling herself for decades didn't hold up. We will be, I said, but not today. I walked out to the car where Priya was listening to a podcast about organizational psychology, which felt appropriate. She looked at me, searched my face for the answer to a question she didn't need to ask, and said, Thai food? That was 3 months ago. Here's where things stand. Megan closed the boutique, sold the inventory at cost, settled what she could with creditors, and got a job as an assistant manager at a home goods store. Not glamorous, but she shows up every day. Derek moved back in after a month. They're in couples counseling. The repayment plan is active. $500 a month. That'll take about 7 years, and that's fine. The point was never speed. The point was accountability. My credit report is clean. The fraudulent loan is gone. My score is back. And the credit union investigation closed with a finding of fraud. Glenn handled all of it. The DA declined to prosecute, citing full cooperation from both sides. Megan doesn't have a felony on her record. She does have a paper trail that will follow her if she tries anything like this again. My mom and I talk about once a month. Short calls, surface-level stuff. She hasn't really apologized. Not the kind that means I was wrong rather than I'm sorry this happened. But she stopped asking me for money and she stopped playing the martyr card. Ray tells me she's seeing a therapist. Uncle Ray and I are closer than we've ever been. He came over for a barbecue last weekend with steaks. He told me my father would have been proud, and I had to go inside for a minute because I'm only emotionally composed up to a point. Priya and I are good. Better than good. Last month she moved in, and the house feels like it belongs to both of us now. She still gives me that look sometimes. The one that says, "I told you so," without any smugness in it. And Megan, my sister, the woman who texted me to enjoy starting over, she texted me last week, a different kind of text this time. It said, "I made the payment and I found a vintage lamp at work that would look good in your living room. Want me to set it aside?" It was the most normal thing she'd said to me in years. I told her to set it aside. We're not close, we may never be again. Not the way siblings are supposed to be. But we're something. And honestly, after everything, something feels like enough. I'm Thomas, 32, software engineer with a consulting business, a house, a girlfriend who sees through everything, and a family that's finally, grudgingly, learning that love doesn't mean unlimited access to someone else's life. So, tell me, have you ever been blindsided by family in a way you never expected? What did you do? And seriously, if you have a joint account with a family member that you haven't checked in a while, go check it right now. I'll wait. And if you find something you didn't expect, know this. Holding someone accountable is not the same as giving up on them. Sometimes it's the only way to save what's left.